before Rahul Gandhi is slated to announce the Congress party's chief ministerial candidate for Punjab, the party is quite literally imploding, handing over the advantage to its main challenger, the Aam Aadmi Party. I'm Barkha Dutt and you're with the Mojo Story. These are the developments on the big political focus on the broadcast this evening. Navjot Singh Sidhu is continuing his rebellious spree, this time taking a swipe at chief ministers whom he says dance to other people's tunes. Sidhu, of course, was hoping to be a contender himself. Meanwhile, Sunil Jakhar, the Congress campaign committee head, is asking the Mojo Story, is it a crime to be Hindu? This after he was passed over as a possible contender because of his religion. Rahul Gandhi, in the midst of this imploding party, is to announce a chief ministerial candidate widely believed to be Charanjit Channi. But he's already quite late. Punjab polls are scheduled to be held on the 20th of February. Has the Congress simply handed over game, set and match to the Aam Aadmi Party even before polling because of this open gang warfare? Or could something still change in the run-up to elections? Let's introduce our guest on the program today. Joining us is senior journalist from Punjab, Sarabjit Pandher. Welcome to the program, Mr. Pandher. Also somebody who knows Punjab extremely well and has in fact seen life from both sides, briefly flirted with politics, but is back to her first love of being a journalist. Chander Suta Dogra is with us. Welcome, Chander. Great to see you again. Tehseen, Poonawalla, who's a political analyst, a Congress supporter. He and I have a running bet on Punjab, and I'm going to ask him in this broadcast if he's still sticking to that wager. Sanjay Jha, lapsed Congress spokesperson, sometimes critical, sometimes loving of, I don't know if I should call it his erstwhile party or if he still believes he's a member of the Congress party. And from the Aam Aadmi Party, we're joined by lawyer and politician Ravinder Sat Sri Akal, and welcome to the program. All right, let me start by asking you, Tehseen, what the hell is going on with the Congress party, right? You were among those who was critical when Navjot Singh Sidhu was about to be inducted in the party. It was called Priyanka Gandhi's great Ahmed Patel movement. She brought Sidhu in. Not a day goes by before, without Sidhu taking a swipe at somebody or the other. What message is this sending the voters of Punjab?
Good evening, Barkha. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and good evening to all my fellow panelists and to all your viewers. Couple of points. I still stand by in the introduction. You said my assessment that the Congress is not crossing 70%, it's crossing 80 plus in Punjab. It's going to get more seats than it got in 2017. That still holds true. And if that doesn't hold true, and if that holds true or doesn't, I will lose a dinner bet to you. So I still stand by that absolutely. Okay. I was not critical of Sidhu coming into the party. What I firmly believe is that, when people come in, we must be very clear who we give make the party president. You can make somebody a chief minister, but a party president, a state party president, must be thought about very well. And that's something I say not in Sidhu in particular, but overall for everybody in the Congress. That's something I believe very firmly in. That's a political.
So why was Sidhu made the Congress chief?
Because at that point Sidhu did enjoy support, and that was the right thing to do. I do firmly endorse that decision of Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. But coming to the topic of the day today, Barkha, I've been a lot in Punjab. In fact, I just returned yesterday from Punjab. I've been doing districts, and there's a reason why I've been doing districts, because the perception was in districts and in urban Punjab, AAP appeared to be stronger. So I did Ludhiana, Amritsar, Jalandhar, Patiala, Batinda, Mohali, Firozpur. I did all that. Gurdaspur. I did most of the urban Punjab districts, and I can tell you for a fact that I am more confident than I was a month ago when I would tell you that Congress is sweeping Punjab. I think it's going to be an absolute massive victory for Punjab.
As for what happened, what's the reason for that?
I think the people have realized two things. I think Punjab is not just a state. Punjab is an emotion, and the emotion of Punjab is with the Congress. People have been humiliated by the BJP, by the Prime Minister, let down by the Akali Dal, and as so far as Kejriwal ji and Arvind and the Aam Aadmi Party is concerned, I don't think they want to be governed directly from Delhi, as Sidhu said very rightly the other day, which is manipulated by a particular agency. I think the people of Punjab want to choose their chief minister. They trust the Congress, they trust the Gandhi family. That is a very important factor. And I think that Channi has something going for it. I call it the X factor. Anywhere in Punjab you go, there seems to be a smile and a warmth towards Channi. And I think the last 3 months, 4 months, Congress has salvaged ground. I just want to add one more point to this. I don't believe you're a Lutyens journalist. I believe you're one of the most hardworking journalists. And I deeply say this, I have a lot of respect for you, because very few journalists during COVID took to the grounds as you did. So I will say that you are one of the journalists who has her ears on the ground, and I mean this with all my heart.
Thank you for that compliment. And since you do believe I have my ear on the ground, let me tell you what I experienced and picked up on the ground in Punjab, Tehseen. I felt you're right. Charanjit Channi is generally popular. In fact, I did not meet anybody who said a bad word about him. But what people did say, including Congress voters, is that they believe that he may not become chief minister after the elections, even if the Congress wins. They doubted how much authority he enjoyed within the party. They watched him being undercut by Navjot Singh Sidhu on a daily basis. And this was said to me by Congress supporters as well as AAP supporters. Channi is generally liked. I have no disagreement with you on that. Now, you've spoken about emotions. Before I come to the other panelists, a very, very emotional Sunil Jakhar, who was made the head of the Congress campaign committee, as all of you know, said some extraordinary things to me. In fact, I was taken aback at how blunt he was. And one of the things he said is that he believes the party has marginalized him because he's a Hindu. Listen in. I want to take you back to what Ambika Soni said, and you basically say that she undermined the spirit of Punjabiyat when she said only a Sardar can lead Punjab, and that's not what Punjab is about.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying that by raising this binary of Hindu-Sikh, what she has virtually done is, it is like othering a whole community.
Yeah.
You have named a community. Here we have a law saying calling a SC person by the caste is a crime. And here you are putting an entire community on a back foot that you are disqualifying. I would say it is tantamounts to political apartheid. That you can only go to this point that you cannot enter this hallowed club of CM-ship because you are not a Sikh or a Hindu.
What do you say to this? Because आपने अभी खुद कहा कि पंजाब में ये हिंदू वर्सेस सिख नहीं होता. You call what Ambika Soni did political apartheid. So do you feel bad that your name is not being considered for chief minister just because you're a Hindu? Because you're a Hindu.
I can understand that I was not considered for the position of chief minister. I could have been told, Sunil, you are not an MLA. They could have put some cooked up charges or whatever. Sunil bhi jis tarah all these allegations being thrown around most of the leaders. Koi sand mafia, koi corruption or somebody eve teasing or whatever charges could have been thrown at me, and we are not making him because of that. But they chose this, that I'm a Hindu. I don't consider. You think it's a crime to be a Hindu? What are we talking about? I am proud of being a Hindu, and every Punjabi is proud of me being a Punjabi and me being I'm proud Hindustani. So why did they bring this thing up?
All right, Mr. Jakhar, finally, what role do you see for yourself going forward, and will you stay with the Congress party?
Very much. I am part and parcel of Congress. And as far as I'm concerned, I think I would say my day is done. I'm away from active politics. And that's it. But I still am with the party, but our party wants me. But of course, I'm not looking for any post, neither a deputy chief ministership or any other. So with active politics with me, it's over, Barkha. That's it. But I'm very much a Congress.
But active politics for you is over because you're hurt.
I cannot work with these people. Sorry.
I cannot work with these people. Sorry. It's the statement from the Congress campaign chief in the middle of an election. I want reactions to this. I'll start with Tehseen, then I'll go across the panel. Tehseen?
No, I respect his point of view, but there was an election held for who would be the chief minister, and he claims he got 40 odd MLAs to support him. That's not been substantiated, and ultimately that was done democratically in a transparent manner. And now to come up in the middle of an election, and frankly, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to be very, very blunt on your show, Barkha. In the middle of an election, okay, if you're one of the commanders, even if something's gone wrong, you don't let your army down. If you keep doing it with the party that's given you everything, it's given you everything. What more can Congress give you? If you do that in the middle of an election, personally, I, Tehseen Poonawalla, feel you are ungrateful. It's like, and I'm not a fan of Aam Aadmi Party, but I feel Prashant Bhushan and Yogendra Yadav were ungrateful to Arvind Kejriwal. I feel Ashutosh was. So when a party gives you everything, Congress made you so many times an MLA, आपको minister बनाया, आपको इज्जत दी, आप राहुल गांधी के साथ थे, आपको president बनाया, आपका side लिया captain के सामने. इसके बाद आप इतनी छोटी सी बात पर, in the middle of a damn election, you're going to put your party down when you're the commander. I have no respect for you, and I have no respect for you. And I say this absolutely honestly. And I'm never so
Oh, yeah,
direct.
I was just going to say you've never been this blunt. You're actually calling Sunil Jakhar a commander who's led down his army. Let me bring in Sanjay, who supports the party but is disillusioned with it at the same time. What's going on? This is no, era gera small time leader. This is one of the troika that the Congress had hoped to present before the people of Punjab, with Sidhu as a judge Sikh, Channi as the chief minister and the first Dalit chief minister, and Sunil Jakhar as both the Hindu face at the head of your campaign panel. He's saying, I'm not going to work with these people. I've been passed over because I'm a Hindu. Arvind Kejriwal has seized that movement naturally. Manish Tiwari has been dropped today. Tehseen will now say he's my friend, but Manish Tiwari has been dropped today from the list of campaigners. What is going on in this party? And Sanjay, what do you have to say?
Barkha, honestly, this is Alice in Wonderland, and I think Tehseen is doing an outstanding job of trying to not just rationalize it, but to say that this is in fact going to be a strategic coup for the Congress. And I mean, I have done the part that he's doing today, so I know exactly where my friend Tehseen is coming from. But now
Yeah,
let me explain the bottom line. The bottom line is very straightforward, that the Congress actually has been committing harakiri at periodic intervals. I think if you do it, it will make for a wonderful statistical model that every couple of weeks we have to do some self-destructive act. Now, I asked this question to somebody very senior in the Congress. I will leave you to speculate who that is. And I said, why did you have to bring this chief minister of Punjab issue 20 days or 15 days before the election? If
yeah,
you had to do it, you should have ideally done it earlier, because in the immediate factor will be that Sidhu will revolt, and at
yeah,
the time when people go to vote, you see, people actually decide which party to vote, actually, maybe 24 hours, even a few hours before they go to the ballot box. So the immediate factor will be hostile towards you, no matter how popular Channi seems to be at the moment. I think the beneficiary of this will definitely be AAP. Now, whether the AAP forms a government or not, I don't want to get into that. But the truth is that the Congress is contributing to the AAP's kitty. Whether it goes up by 1 or 5 seats, I don't know. But this is not good governance. I'll tell you why. You lost Captain Amrinder Singh, fair enough. So you can say this was a bold, radical move to, put out an unpopular chief minister who, by the way, was winning all the bypos and all the municipal elections for you till a year ago. That did
yeah.
not make any sense to me. Let's live with that. Now you have Mr. Jakhar, who's unhappy, and he's used very strong terms on your show. And the kind of stuff that he said will make the Congress awkward, not just in Punjab, but probably all over the country if certain
Yeah,
hostile.
because
Yeah,
to be called an anti-Hindu party is
yeah.
actually what the Congress has been fighting in multiple other constituencies.
Absolutely. And Barkha, this is exactly what the Congress doesn't seem to understand, that while it may be a five-state election, the impact of one event is going to percolate. It may not be significant, but will percolate to some extent in different parts, and the BJP gets a handle to beat the Congress with. So I really believe this is nonsensical. And Manish is a good friend of mine. I can tell you that for a fact. And Manish is so disillusioned because he said to me, and I will say it on your show because I don't think it's a secret. He said to me, listen, none of the recommendations we make are being heard. And I'm like, he's your most popular, face at a national level from Punjab at the moment. I mean, he's a guy who could possibly have been our leader of the party in the Lok Sabha. So I really don't understand what we are doing. The Congress yet might scrape through, but the question that will be asked is, what could you have done if you hadn't shot yourself in your feet?
Okay, before I get our two senior journalists, I just want to get Ravinder ji from the Aam Aadmi Party. Sir, आपको तो बहुत मजा आ रहा होगा to see this completely chaotic campaign. It's in a way एक प्लेट पर आपकी पार्टी को एडवांटेज दे दिया गया है. चन्नी जी ने शुरू में कहा कि ये केजरीवाल मुख्यमंत्री बनना चाहते हैं, भगवत मान जी तो बस प्रॉक्सी है. But the Aam Aadmi Party has managed quite a cohesive campaign, except for this 2 points. One, the opposition keeps bringing up Mr. Bhagwant Man's past as someone who had a drinking problem. And two, लोगों का कहना है कि ये तो केजरीवाल की सरकार है, भगवंत मान जी तो फिगर हेड है. आप इस पे क्या बोलेंगे?
सबसे पहले तो Barkha ji, I just want to make a mention over here that as Mr. Poonawalla was saying कि party has given a lot to the Mr. Jakhar. I don't know whether he's aware or not. Mr. Jakhar has done, and the family, entire family of Mr. Jakhar has done a lot of things for the Congress Party. तो आपको ये बात तो पहले कभी नहीं भूलनी चाहिए। और ये जो बात भी सभी पैनलिस्ट ने की है कि आम आदमी
आप बड़ा फील कर रही है
It's not
जाखर
about
जी के लिए।
वो इमोशन है,
अगर जाखर जी अभी
इमोशन।
कांग्रेस की तरफदारी कर रहे होते तो आप उनकी
मैं उसी चीज बरखा जी मैं उसी बात पे आ रहा हूँ। कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनैलिटी की बात कर रहे थे मिस्टर पूनेवाला। उनकी एज पर हिज स्टेटमेंट, एज पर द स्टेटमेंट बाय द कांग्रेस लीडर, 42 वोट्स ही हैज गेन्ड इन द जो इनके पार्टी के अंदर रेफरेंडम हुआ था, और उसमें सिर्फ 2 वोट्स मिले थे मिस्टर चन्नी को। अगर ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनैलिटी की बात करते हैं तो एक 42 वोट्स वाले को इन्होंने एमएलए, जिनको एमएलए ने वोट किया था, उनको इन्होंने सीएम नहीं बनाया।
क्या तकलीफ हो रही है? आपको क्या तकलीफ हो रही है? आपको तो मजे लेने चाहिए कि इनकी इतनी क्योटिक कैंपेन चल रही है।
It's not about मजे लेने चाहिए बरखा जी। It's about the hypocrisy by the Congress government, by the Congress leadership. अभी राहुल गांधी जी आएंगे और कल को सीएम चेहरा अनाउंस करके जाएंगे। मेरा एक सवाल है, मुझे एक बात बता दीजिए कि कौन सी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पोस्ट पर है? राहुल गांधी तो कांग्रेस के प्रेसिडेंट भी नहीं है, इज जस्ट ए सिंपल एमपी बाय द कांग्रेस। क्यों सोनिया गांधी जी नहीं आते? क्या या कोई और लोग नहीं आते? क्या पार्टी में कोई लीडर ही नहीं है इनके? और ये जो बात कर रहे हैं कांग्रेस की 80 से या 80+ सीट्स आने की, मैम आपको अगर पता हो 2-3 दिन पहले सोनिया गांधी had called मिस्टर कैप्टन with regard to the पंजाब इलेक्शन, और उनको स्पेसिफिकली बोला that we have done some blunders in the पंजाब and in the party। और जो हमारे पटियाला की एमपी है कांग्रेस कैप्टन साहब की वाइफ, उनसे भी बात हुई है। और ये यहां तक बात सोनिया गांधी जी ने की है कि अगर इफ वी नीड यू आफ्टर द इलेक्शन फॉर द सपोर्ट, आई एम वेरी मच श्योर दैट यू विल बी देयर फॉर कांग्रेस पार्टी। तो ये बातें कर रहे हैं। कांग्रेस इज जस्ट एक कैमोफ्लैज बनाने की कोशिश कर रही है, जैसे पहले चन्नी जी को उतार कर दे वर वेरी मच अवेयर कि
मैं समझ गई। अच्छा एक मिनट रविंदर जी, एक मिनट। आपने बहुत सी बातें कही। आई एम श्योर तहसीन विल वांट टू रिस्पॉन्ड, बट फर्स्ट लेट मी गेट चंदर एंड सरबजीत। Chander, go ahead. Your reading of the tea leaves, as it were, how much of an advantage has this given to the Aam Aadmi Party? Even till about 10 days ago, it looked like this was going to be a close contest. But since then, the Congress narrative, at least, I don't know if this is percolating down to the grassroots or whether this is just a kind of, a media obsession. The Congress is completely a divided house, and the Amar Akbar Antony moment of the Congress to present Jakhar, Sidhu and Channi as one, that has failed. Does the voter care?
Yes, certainly the voters actually looking at which way, what's happening in the Congress, because firstly, let's just look at Charanjit, Channi for a minute. The Dalit voters, a lot of them were undecided whether they should vote for the Congress, because they aren't very sure whether Charanjit Channi will be the chief minister going ahead, or the chief ministerial face. I mean, who knows whether the party wins or not. But certainly they were looking to see whether we should actually support the Congress, because the party didn't seem to be behind Charanjit Channi in a way that he wasn't allowed to do his own stuff for whatever little time he's been in government. And also there still is this huge question mark whether he will be the chief minister if the Congress party wins the election. So that undecided vote, if because of all this, is certainly going
but what if, as expected, Mr. Gandhi does name Mr. Channi as the chief ministerial candidate? Surveys have regularly shown that while the combined popularity of Kejriwal and Bhagwant Mann is higher, Charanjit Channi on his own, at least till the last surveys, I don't know what the polling would be today, was the single most popular leader. So he has been the discovery of this election, but he seems to have been let down utterly by his party.
Yes, certainly, but the argument or the reason why he would be chosen by the Congress party is because of the Dalit votes which he would certainly bring to the Congress kitty. And that, I mean, even if there is a 5 to 6% swing, it would be substantial. It's not as if the entire 32-33% of the Dalit vote won't, because it's always divided. We also have the BSP this time, and the Aam Aadmi Party is also pulling a lot of Dalit votes. But still, a significant chunk, not just of the Dalits, but also the OBCs and the other marginalized communities. Those are also rooting for Charanjit Channi. So a substantial chunk of that vote will certainly. So I think the Congress, that is one of the reasons why it would go with Channi, because if it wants to go ahead even at the national level and do Dalit politics, then it makes sense what they're doing in Punjab. Punjab has a huge Dalit population, which has always been divided between different parties. It has never been consolidated.
But
really.
at the moment, before I come to Mr. Pandher, you would say, Chander, Dogra, that the voter is able to see this mess in the campaign, and it is a detrimental political consequence for the Congress.
Certainly, and I'll just take a minute and touch on Navjot Sidhu. Now, Navjot Sidhu has been, in a way, let loose on the Punjab Congress to, he claims that he's been let loose so that he can clean up things from within and destroy the mafia. And he talks about demolishing structures of patronage, and that is one of the reasons why everyone is gunning for him within the Congress as well as the other parties. I mean, nobody wants him to win. Nobody wants him to become the chief ministerial face or be anywhere, in the reckoning. But one has to understand that he was the strongest counter to the Aam Aadmi Party's plank of change, because he is projecting himself as the Mr. Clean in the Congress, the person who can bring change in the Congress. So if he is not in the race anymore and he is out, one, of course, he will revolt and he will probably bring out a couple of big exposes. That's very likely. And people who were still thinking of voting for the Congress and hoping that they were seeing this change in Navjot Sidhu would also go towards the AAP.
Very interesting. That is interesting that anybody who likes Sidhu at this point might move towards the AAP. Sarabjit, Pandher, do you agree? I actually think my reading is that Sidhu is a train wreck. I'm sorry, even I'm rarely this blunt about politicians that I report on, but I actually believe that Mr. Sidhu has been a train wreck for the Congress campaign. I actually can't see the advantage. The obvious caste calculation in presenting him was that the Jat Sikh vote that might have been, felt underrepresented with Channi as the face would be balanced out. But has Sidhu brought advantage to the Congress family at all, you think?
Barkha, the situation in which Congress is at this moment, sorry, I think we journalists also are responsible for that, because we try to go with the fashion. At one time, we were presenting Captain Ravinder Singh to be the tallest leader in the region. Then we said, no, Sidhu is the best. Now we are like Charanjit, Channi, there is no match for him. So that's why the Congress is into that situation. But for Sidhu, very pointed question. I also believe that Sidhu is politically amorphous and very, very ambiguous.
Yeah.
To the extent I would say that he's a political freak, and then he's politically
freak.
mobile.
I like this phrase, political freak. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then he's on parties, he's mobile. He has touched every party. He came from the BJP, went into Congress, has flirted with the Aam Aadmi Party, was talking to the Kisans also. So, and above all, he presents himself to be very righteous. And best part, what I think is that he's a great salesman. He has sold his product very well. And the Congress, it's not his problem. I think he's a smart guy who could sell his product. The problem is with the Congress who bought the product. And now they don't know what to do with it. So the other day, Bhagwant Mann, I think he put it very well. He said Sidhu is like वो जो शादी का सूट होता है जो कोई सिलवाता नहीं है, इधर उधर गिफ्ट करते रहते हैं, लेकिन कांग्रेस ने लिफाफे से बाहर निकाल लिया, अब ना तो लिफाफे में वापस जाता ना चलता है. So Sidhu himself, with his way of functioning, has become a liability. So when the Congress, if the same Congress, the same Rahul Gandhi and same Priyanka Gandhi who made him PCC president, they made Channi the chief minister, or they want to make Channi as the chief ministerial face, it is not acceptable to him. So anything that is not acceptable to him, वो कहते हैं शादी में फूफा रूठ जाता है, वो he behaves like
नाराज
that.
फूफा, दिस इज द फ्रेज आई हर्ड अ लॉट इन पंजाब अबाउट सिद्धू की वो तो नहीं जी एक नाराज फूफा है. आई लव द फ्रेज जस्ट लाइक पॉलिटिकल फ्रीक. सो तहसीन, lots for you to respond to, including by your ex colleague, well, I guess you're still friends. I was going to say ex friend Sanjay Jha, but also from the Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson and our two veteran journalists. Go ahead, Tehseen.
No, Sanjay always is my friend, especially for a dinner that I'm taking you for. He's footing the bill, so he'll always be a friend. So I will never say anything. But on a more serious note, look, it is Sidhu and it is the Congress party that took on Majeetia. We admitted that there was a drug problem. Who was the one who apologized? And I pardon me for using this word, with his tail between his legs. It was Arvind Kejriwal. That Arvind Kejriwal will solve the problems of Punjab. With his tail between the legs, he apologized, and now he's taking a pot shot at Sidhu. Sidhu is taking on Majeetia head on. Same Majeetia who you apologized to. So there is. I'm not disputing that there is aspirations in the Congress to become chief minister, but that comes from the fact that the Congress has a pool of talent. It isn't being run by one man from Delhi like Mr. Kejriwal who will decide policies. It is being done by the people of Punjab. It is being run by the MLAs of Punjab. To the second point, look, I personally believe that whatever decision the party takes tomorrow or the party leadership takes tomorrow with its MLAs would finally be acceptable, because everybody knows, and I'm going to be as blunt as I can, there is no choice. Now, the veteran journalist spoke about someone going here, there. Ultimately, you have two choices. You have 2.5 choices. You have Congress, you have AAP, and half a choice of Akali Dal and BJP, because they are not coming to power. And I think the BJP is going to get as many seats as the Prime Minister's press conferences, 0. So when they're not coming to power, you have 2.5 choices. Where are you going to go? So ultimately, everyone will fall in line. Can they do some damage? Rather, if they have to do something, it happens now, then it happens later on. But I do believe everyone's going to fall in line. I do believe that people do understand that the sentiment is with the Congress party. And I do agree with, again, what a veteran journalist said. Sometimes I think the media is harshly critical and unfair to the Congress. Ultimately, if the Congress was not winning, if the Aam Aadmi Party was winning, ED raids would have happened on Arvind Kejriwal or would have happened on Bhagwat Mann. The fact that ED raids are happening on Channi is an indicator of the fact that Congress is winning. Just one night, the same ED, and I'm very grateful to the ED and the same income tax, when they raided Stalin won, when they raided Abhishek Banerjee won. So this is a good sign, a Shubh Muhurat. And one more thing, Sanjay spoke about some friends of his who are seniors in Congress.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take any names personally. They may be friends of anybody, but I'm just going to ask this for your viewers to understand. They were ministers in the Congress government. Did they contest elections or did they run away? When they ran away, did they spoil another person's seat or no? What were they handling? When they were handling media, how did they handle media? I'm not saying that we should be like the BJP dictatorial. All I'm trying to say is, ultimately, yours is but to do or die. Yours is not to question why. The minute you start questioning, your loyalty is to the self, not to the organization.
Okay, Sanjay, let's bring you in before we go to Aam Aadmi Party's Ravinder Ji. Tehseen makes an interesting point. There aren't those many places for Sidhu to go to. The other whisper is that in the case of a hung assembly or a hung house, you could actually see everybody coming together to keep the Aam Aadmi Party out. There are people on the ground who actually believe that there was that kind of cozy arrangement. Even last time, General J.J. Singh, for example, who joined the BJP, basically says that the Akalis and the Congress conspired, and that is, something that you hear again and again off the record in Punjab. So, Sanjay, go ahead. Do you agree that Sidhu won't revolt? Sidhu will have to sort of settle in, even if Mr. Channi is named as the CM candidate?
Well, I'll tell you what, Barkha. You know why the Congress has done it, and I can tell you this is what politics is about, right? It's about risk taking. I think why the Congress has actually done it, and I have been in conversation with a few people, is because they feel that because Mr. Mann and the AAP have probably had traction. Let's not deny it. It's an AAP versus Congress battle. The reason why they have put up the name of Mr. Channi is because they believe when Mr. Channi is formally put up as the CM face, Mr. Mann and the AAP will actually face a major problem, because then the choice becomes more crystal clear. And forget the 31% Dalit vote, etc. I think Mr. Channi has generally been a very enduring personality. He's kind of a guy with a rustic, simplicity about him. And in a great number of ways embodies a Punjabi spirit that, people just love. I thought the rejoinder that he gave to Prime Minister Modi on the day there was this big drama about the security lapse was frankly speaking loved by many people, not just in Punjab but even outside. So I think as a candidate, he definitely overshadows Mr. Maan, and I think that gives advantage Congress.
Well, except that I think the contest might be Channi versus Kejriwal and not Channi versus Maan, or Channi versus Maan plus Kejriwal, and that's where I think it gets a little more interesting from speaking as a journalist.
Yeah, but there's another point. You see, what the Congress is hoping for, what I told you in the previous 5 minutes ago that they made the announcement too late. The Congress's tactical call here is that by announcing it so late, they are not giving Sidhu an opportunity to really destruct beyond a point, because Sidhu has to hold his own seat. And while he'll make some noise, after a point it will dissipate. So basically, they have actually trapped Sidhu, cut his wings totally. He will obviously have 1 or 2 days of media sensational value in terms of the sound bites, but beyond that, he has no choice. He can't leave the Congress. But I would only add 1 point to Tehseen and everybody else in the Congress. What I'm slightly skeptical about is I'm reading these reports that the Congress is doing some internal poll using some technology which is going to tell them what people want. Now, these are terribly rigged results. I'm telling you that's something I'm very cynical about. And that's what Mr. Jha is hinting at. That end of day, are you really representative about what people think? And this technology stuff, I'm telling you, I don't want to take names, can be a mammoth disaster for the Congress because it pisses people off.
I actually think Mr. Jha, and I think this point was made by you earlier, his comments that I was looked over because I'm a Hindu is going to shadow the Congress, especially if it does not win Punjab. If it manages to win Punjab, nobody's going to remember what Jha said. But if the result doesn't go the Congress's way, then this is something that is going to haunt the Congress. Okay, Ravinder ji, very quickly to you. This allegation कि केजरीवाल जी ने तो legal reasons की वजह से मजीठिया जी को apologize कर दिया, मजीठिया जी, facing serious allegations in drugs cases. So what business does Mr. Kejriwal have to present himself as Mr. Clean? इस पे आप क्या कहेंगे?
मैं तो बरखा जी इस पे कहना चाहूंगा कि दूसरों के पाप गिनाने से अपने गुनाह कम नहीं होते हैं. What they have done in 5 years of their government, 5 साल इन्होंने सरकार चलाई है. And I just want to make a mention over here, जब हाई कोर्ट में, पंजाब एंड हरियाणा हाई कोर्ट में मजीठिया जी की बेल की एप्लीकेशन को सुना जा रहा था, तो 3 डेट्स वहां पर एडजर्नमेंट्स जो हैं वो मिली थी मजीठिया साहब को. एंड वेरी स्पेसिफिकली हाई कोर्ट जज ने कहा था कि हम तो मजीठिया साहब को बेल ग्रांट कर ही नहीं रहे हैं, पंजाब पुलिस पकड़ ही नहीं रही है. तो 4.5 साल व्हाट दे हैव डन विद 4.5 साल में इन्होंने क्या किया मजीठिया जी के साथ. एंड में आकर, लास्ट में आकर, जब इन्होंने किसी भी डीएसपी ने, एसएसपी ने, इनके डीजीपी ने, जिस पुलिस स्टेशन में मजीठिया के खिलाफ एफआईआर हुई है, उस पुलिस स्टेशन में जब से वो बना है, ये सेकंड एफआईआर है. जस्ट टू टेक अ पॉलिटिकल वेंडेटा, जो सिर्फ उस चीज के लिए किया गया. व्हाट दे हैव डन इन लास्ट 5 years एवरीबॉडी नोज. और उसके बाद भी जो बेअदबी की केसेस हुए थे, जो सैक्रिलेजेस केसेस हुए थे, व्हाट दे हैव डन फॉर दैट. आई जस्ट हैव रोजगारी
जी, सुनिए, बेरोजगारी, मैं कुछ कहना चाह रही हूँ इस पे. ये जो सैक्रिलेज का मुद्दा है ना, ये बिल्कुल एक अलग डिबेट है. इस पे I think we need to debate it separately because every political party is playing a dangerous game, according to me, with that issue. But let me just play out before we come to Sarabjit and Chander. Arvind Kejriwal. Now, what's happening very interestingly, and I think this has been mentioned, that does the game change as Mr. Channi is declared formally? The real fight is going to be which one of them is perceived to be the real Aam Aadmi. Charanjit Channi in an interview to me said, "वो केजरीवाल जी तो बड़े आदमी हैं," because in comparison to Charanjit Channi, that's how Mr. Channi describes him. एक मिनट. This is what Arvind Kejriwal had to say.
पर कभी आपने सोचा था कि आपके ऊपर एलिगेशन आएगा कि आप एलीट है, क्योंकि आपकी पार्टी वाज बोर्न इन द नैरेटिव ऑफ सेल्फ मेड पॉलिटिक्स. आज आपको एलीट कहा जा रहा है.
वो जबरदस्ती करते हैं. चन्नी साहब जब ऐसा बोलते भी हैं तो लोग हंसते हैं उनके.
Okay, that wasn't the complete clip, but go ahead, Ravinder ji. Please complete your point.
Barkha Channi, Mr. Charanjit Singh Channi was the person who was the owner of a petrol pump in when he was in 23. वो 23 साल की उम्र में he's a very elite, he came from a very elite scheduled caste family और उनकी खुद की वाइफ SMO है. तो अगर ये कॉमन मैन की वो परिभाषा है, ये डेफिनेशन है, तो ये बहुत मुझे तो लगता है कि एक अतकथनी वाली बात है. और जितने भी लोग वहां पर हैं, जितने भी लोग चन्नी, द पीपल सराउंडेड बाय द मिस्टर चन्नी एंड देयर फैमिली, आप मुझे एक बात बताइए, कितने शेड्यूल कास्ट हैं जिनके घर से 10 करोड़ रुपया कैश मिलता है? आप मुझे बताइए. कितने आम लोग भी हैं अगर पंजाब की बात की जाए तो उनकी जो जो फैमिली में से मनी, हनी एंड चन्नी, उनके हनी जो उनके फैमिली में है, उनके घर से, उनके शायद साली के बेटे हैं, उनके घर से 10 करोड़ रुपया कैश मिला है. आप मनी, हनी एंड चन्नी, और चन्नी को तो किंग पिन कहा जाता है. ये जितना भी माइनिंग माफिया चल रहा है पंजाब में, चन्नी वाज द किंग पिन ऑफ माइनिंग माफिया इन पंजाब. सो ये सारी बातें हैं. और जो मरिंडा की हम बात कर रहे हैं, सॉरी चमकौर साहब की बात कर रहे हैं, the Congress party is backing Mr. Channi very well. That is the only reason. Channi is also fighting from Badaus.
I'm actually going to play out that complete Arvind Kejriwal clip in a moment from now. We had a technical issue at the back end, so forgive us for that. But Tehseen, I'm sure you want to respond to that, and then I'll go to our journalist friends.
No, I just wanted to ask my friend from Aam Aadmi Party, before giving sermons of honesty to everybody, where is the Lokpal in Delhi? That's still not come. So, and Arvind Kejriwal, who claims to be an Aam Aadmi Party, was the income tax commissioner. So look, everyone can go back into past and say everything, but there's jealousy against Mr. Channi because a Dalit man is chief minister. He's the only chief minister, the most qualified chief minister. Education, please sir, let me finish. The most educated chief minister in our country. But the comments against him because he's in a private plane, the comments against him that he had a petrol pump, this is what this humiliation is what continues to happen to our Dalit fellow citizens. This is what the Congress is standing against. The Congress has an OBC chief minister in Ashok Gehlot. It has an OBC chief minister in Bhupesh Baghel. It has a Dalit chief minister in Punjab. The Congress is giving the weakest of weak powers, and Mr. Kejriwal, an income tax officer, sits here and says he's a common man. Where is the Lokpal? You apologize to Majiti and you tell me where is the Lokpal? Where is that your central promise?
Okay, let him respond briefly. Then I really do want to go to both Sarabjit and Chander. Ravinder ji, 15 second aap response kariye, then I want to go ahead.
I also belong to the same community, Mr. Poonawalla. So आपको नहीं पता है कि I am very much aware about the Mr. Channi, what he was when he used to, he was running his petrol pump, और किस तरह से evolve किया.
You are saying that not all Dalits are convinced of Mr. Channi's roots as a grassroots person.
See, Barkha, what is happening in Punjab? You are very much right that there are 37% of the total population belongs to the particular scheduled caste community, but 38 castes are there. Channi only represents the Ravidasiya community. So this is what we have to understand, that SC, अगर आप पूरे शेड्यूल कास्ट की बात करते हैं तो उसमें भी 38 कास्ट हैं और सिर्फ रविदासिया कम्युनिटी को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं. अगर आप बात करते हैं कि रेस्ट ऑफ द शेड्यूल कास्ट कम्युनिटी रन विद मिस्टर चन्नी, सो दिस इज नॉट.
Okay,
you're also being divided.
Okay, hang on, guys.
Just 5 seconds. I just want one question. You were leader of the opposition. You had the opposition space. Why did you never raise allegations against Channi? Why you and the BJP doing it in the middle of a campaign? You're doing it because you know you're losing. 5 years you were in opposition. You never raised one point against him. Sorry, Barkha.
Okay.
Channi, what Mr. Manjisia said about Mr. Channi. आप मुझे एक बात बताइए, जब लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली
नेतागिरी करे आप, ये एलिगेशन काउंटर एलिगेशन में the audience isn't getting more informed. Obviously all political parties are guilty of some double speak. Now I just want to play out that full Kejriwal clip and then get Chander and Sarabjit to respond to it. Let's listen in again.
दूसरा, चन्नी जी ने कहा कि असली आम आदमी तो वो है. उन्होंने मुझे कहा कि वो हम एक खेत में बैठे थे, मंजे पे जो चारपाई होती है. उन्होंने कहा मैं तो इस मंजे की रस्सी तक जानता हूँ, अरविंद जी तो एलीट है. मैं गरीबी में पला, मैं टेंट लगाए, मैंने फायर क्रैकर बेचे, मैंने मेरे घर में पक्की रूफ नहीं थी.
गिल्ली डंडा खेला उन्होंने. वो कहते हैं मेरे को कंचे खेलने आते हैं, मेरे को गिल्ली डंडा खेलना आता है. केजरीवाल को कहाँ आता है?
कहते हैं केजरीवाल बड़े बड़े होटल में रहते हैं, वो तो आम आदमी नहीं है.
गाय का दूध निकालना आता है मेरे को. तो मैं पंजाब की जनता से कहना चाहता हूँ भाई, मेरे को गिल्ली डंडा नहीं खेलना आता, मेरे को कंचे भी नहीं खेलने आते, मेरे को गाय का दूध भी नहीं निकालना आता, मेरे को स्कूल बनाने आते हैं. मेरे को अस्पताल बनाने आते हैं। अब पंजाब की जनता तय कर ले कि उन्हें गिल्ली डंडा खेलने वाली सरकार चाहिए कि स्कूल बनाने वाली सरकार चाहिए।
पर कभी आपने सोचा था कि आपके ऊपर एलिगेशन आएगा कि आप एलीट है, क्योंकि आपकी पार्टी वाज बोर्न इन द नैरेटिव ऑफ सेल्फ मेड पॉलिटिक्स, आज आपको एलीट कहा जा रहा है।
वो जबरदस्ती करते हैं। चन्नी साहब जब ऐसा बोलते भी हैं तो लोग हंसते।
Okay, so I just wanted to play out that bit where Chander he says very cleverly, I thought, कि मुझे ये सब नहीं आता लेकिन मुझे स्कूल बनाने आते हैं, and a lot of people I met were buying into what they now call the Delhi model. So that narrative has sold, but even in the last election, there was a lot of buzz around the Aam Aadmi Party, and it did not actually translate into a win. A number of people with ears to the ground in Punjab says that these other parties can all work together strategically to keep the AAP out. Is that what's happening this time too? Can we unmute her, please? Yeah, go ahead.
Although, yes, the mood for change is very strong, and what Arvind Kejriwal, whatever he said, he's saying this to the people also because he knows that there is a resonance coming from the ground and he can hear that and he's responding to that. The mood for change. People are actually not bothered about who's the Aam Aadmi and who's not so Aam Aadmi. People are looking at the Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal to bring in the changes, certainly. And Charanjit, Channi, everyone knows in Punjab that he will not be able to bring in, I mean, he's not the man who can usher in change in Punjab. Well, certainly he will attract the Dalits, etc. All that is at one end, but he's really not the person. I mean, if at all anybody is looking at within the Congress, the person who can bring in change is Navjot Sidhu. But Navjot Sidhu, as we all know, there are various other problems connected with him.
Yeah.
So, so now, what to your other question, whether everyone is ganging up against the Aam Aadmi Party? Yes, certainly this is very, very possible, and already there is a buzz that another thing which I think hasn't been touched upon in this program is the rise of the Shiromani Akali Dal, a party which has been just written off by everyone else, but that's not true. The Shiromani Akali Dal is doing pretty well and is likely to get more seats than it got last time. So,
and that would create a very interesting set of options if there isn't a clear victory.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Shiromani Akali Dal will be a major player in the event of a hung assembly. And I mean, it is being said openly that without the Shiromani Akali Dal, no government, no coalition government will be formed in Punjab if at all there is a hung assembly, because it doesn't look as of now as if any party is going to get a very clear majority on its own. So yes, the Aam Aadmi Party, if it ties up with the Congress, which seems very unlikely, that's probably because none of the other parties are likely to join hands. And also there is, the independents have been put up in various constituencies wherever the Aam Aadmi Party candidates are strong. So those independent candidates will also cut into their votes. So there are a lot of all those things happening. I think once...
Very interesting. Yeah. Let me just take that to Sarabjit Ji as well. Sarabjit Ji, is there a likelihood that all of these unlikely players could actually come together just to keep Kejriwal out? Because even today, he's not really considered as a conventional politician by many parties who have a bigger comfort zone with each other.
Barkha, it's very easy, usually when a ruling party loses, they bring in the anti-incumbency factor. So, and before they go in for a contest, they have a winnability factor. So, conspiracy theories do get floated. If Kejriwal cannot make it or Aam Aadmi does not make it, it is going to be, so the excuse has already been cooked that everybody else ganged up. So people in Punjab, the political parties in Punjab are not here to defeat Kejriwal. They all want to form the government. So it is in the process, Kejriwal or Aam Aadmi gets defeated. That is something else. So I will not buy that people are ganging up. Second is the problem is when we come out with a Punjab model or a Delhi model. We have had a farmers' protest running on the borders of Delhi for 380 days, which threw up a very important question, which questioned the path of development which India has followed for the last at least the 3 decades when We have had the neoliberal policies coming in. So the farmers questioned that path of development. So the Delhi model or the Punjab model being espoused by Kejriwal or by Sidhu, they have nothing to do with that path of development.
Okay. On the point of the Akalis, Mr. Pandher, a quick last word from you. Are they going to be a factor, as Chander says, especially if there isn't a clear victory?
I would say it depends. How does the Sanyukt Samaj Morcha perform? Some journalists who interviewed Arvind Kejriwal or some people, they have said that the Kisan Morcha, the Sanyukt Samaj Morcha of the farmers' organizations might get up to 9,000 votes per constituency. Those are all Aam Aadmi party votes. If per constituency in a 5-cornered contest you're going to lose 9,000 votes, up to 9,000 votes, who is going to gain out of it? Akali Dal is going to gain out of it because Akali Dal has a consolidated vote bank. The other day somebody said that if the Akali Dal cadre sincerely comes out to vote, they are in a striking distance of forming the government on their own as well.
Wow. So that could be, an overlooked story by the media, which is very interesting to learn about. Chander, you wanted to add to that, and then I need to start closing. Yeah, Chander, can we unmute Chander, please? Yes.
Just one small thing. It was mentioned over here that, well, all the parties are here to win elections and not to bring down the Aam Aadmi Party. See, the two major parties, the Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party, it seems are as if they are in a position to form the government, if at all they come with a majority. But there are other players in whose interest it is and who are trying to bring about a hung assembly. So this is also very tactically being played out now. The BJP and the Amrinder Party and the Akali Dal, that fragmented bit which has come out, those three, for them also it makes sense to ensure that there is a hung assembly and nobody gets a clear majority. And the same is the case with the Shiromani Akali Dal, because even if they get, say, 25 or 30 seats, then also they are within striking distance of forming a government, but only if there is a coalition. On their own, even they can't. So they have to ensure that none of the others get a clear majority. So there is a concerted effort in Punjab today to ensure that there is a hung assembly. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I need to start taking last comments now. Let me go to Ravinder ji first. Ravinder ji, आपको लगता है कि सारी पार्टीज या आप लोगों को रोकने के लिए मिली हुई है? सरबजीत जी कहते हैं ये तो एक कन्वीनियंट बहाना है.
This is what happened in 2017. I came from Rajpura, which is a gateway of Punjab, the first city from Punjab, and I can say on a very serious note, I have seen in 2017 that Jahan ke jo Akalis the, pure Patiala ke jo Akalis the, they have done the same. Has happened in Mohali, same has happened in Fatehgarh Sahib, Ludhiana. So this is what has have done in the past in 2017, and till now मैं आपको बता नहीं सकता कि कहाँ क्या होता है. तो इट इज देयर, ये बात तो सही है, बट जो पंजाब के लोग हैं एक बहुत बड़ा अंडरकरंट है आम आदमी पार्टी के लिए. आम आदमी पार्टी के लिए एक बहुत बड़ा अंडरकरंट है. जितनी भी कन्वेंशन पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज हैं उनसे बहुत ज्यादा ऊब चुके हैं लोग, और 2022 के इलेक्शन
We'll see. Quick 30 seconds. I have to interject there. 30 seconds each to Sanjay and Tehseen. Tehseen, I'll start with you. Give the last word to Sanjay. Go ahead. Tehseen. Tehseen, you're on mute. Somebody needs to unmute him. Go ahead. Yes.
In my tour in Punjab, and I go back there on Monday, so one thing I've realized in urban Punjab was the flirtation with Aam Aadmi Party is completely over, and the people of Punjab have decided that whoever comes to power will be a thumping majority. That's generally been the trend across India and various states. They've given one party majority because they don't want this coalition khichdi, as we say. So that is not going to happen. And therefore, I say the question comes down to, do they trust the Akalis that went with Mr. Modi? Do they trust Arvind Kejriwal, who seems to be a lackey of Mr. Modi? Or do they trust the Congress that will never ever compromise with Mr. Modi? And I think the answer is extremely clear. It's for the Congress.
Okay, Sanjay Jha, last word to you. You said it's an Alice in Wonderland moment. I don't know who the Humpty Dumpty is, if it's Alice in Wonderland. Any guesses?
Well, Barkha, let me tell you, I think since this is a multi-cornered contest in Punjab, also for the first time, It's not the traditional rivals that you saw, Congress versus Akali Dal plus BJP kind of contest. Now it's AAP, and there is, the Captain Ravinder Singh, etc. You are going to find that there will be victories with narrower margins. And therefore, we are all skating on thin ice when we make predictions. But I tell you what happens in a multi-cornered contest. Watch for the spoilers, because see, I think the spoilers are the ones that you got to watch for, and that is where I think the role of maybe Captain Amrinder Singh or the Akali Dal could be significant, and I think that's what both AAP and the Congress will worry about.
Well, I will say this, that it certainly is probably the most interesting Punjab election we've seen in years. Really, it has so many protagonists, so many players, and so many characters, and so much drama. For a journalist, of course, it's lovely. For the political parties, it must be nerve-wracking. We leave it there. Chander and Sarabjit, thank you. Tehseen, Sanjay, and Ravinder Ji, thank you. And to our audience, have a great weekend. See you tomorrow. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.